Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tradition's Going Vertical podcast. I'm Mike Greenlay, your host, and Erik Hendrikson, my co-host, is along with me as well. And we have a special guest today. His name is Dan Smith. He's a compliance officer and director of fair lending initiatives with Tradition Mortgage. And welcome to both of you. Today, our subject matter is simple secrets to financial confidence, and it's a series of seminars that Tradition Mortgage is involved in. And Erik, I would like for you to kind of give us the background on what this is and the idea behind getting this going forward. And you've already done two of them, so you can kind of give us a background on this.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Really, as far as our Simple Secrets seminars that we've put together, it really came out of some discussions we had with community leaders in North Minneapolis. And at Tradition, we've been blessed over the years to have success in our business enterprises, and with that, I feel comes an obligation to pay it forward and to look at those out in the community that are underserved. And there are ways that we can take our expertise and knowledge that we've gained over the last 20 plus years and maybe share that with people that don't have as immediate access to that. So in talking with those community leaders, one of the things that we really developed is just this these regular quarterly seminars that just kind of put it in straightforward terms, some of the core financial concepts that people can build upon. So it's one thing to have income and opportunities, but it's also one thing to really know how to manage your money and different strategies involved to help kind of set you up for long-term success. So we're excited to have it going.
You're already off and running with these. The first seminar you guys did was on credit, and the second one was budgeting and paying off debt. Dan, I mean, as compliance officer and fair lending initiatives, there's a lot of details to finances. Is that one of the goals? You're trying to simplify this, and you're trying to simplify some concepts that aren't always very simple to understand. So when you guys go into this, how are you breaking this down to try and help individuals understand the details of sometimes what are pretty complex, some complex things in the financial world?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've tried to break down each topic into 5 or 6 key takeaways that people can really have a good understanding in 45 to 60 minutes of us talking and laying out a lot of times real life examples, things that we've went through and experienced in our adult lives, so that they can take that information and immediately put it into action. For example, when we did our seminar on credit, we asked people to bring a credit report that they were able to go and pull online for free. And I sat down with several people one at a time afterwards, and we looked at their credit history, we looked at the accounts that they had today, and we talked about what they could do to continue to improve their credit if they've made good strides in the past, or that they could start today, and this is what you can do to continue to manage your credit. And we say, in 6 months, this is where you'll probably be. 12 months, this is where your credit could be, to try to set people up to take something and make it actionable right away is really what we wanted to do.
And I'll just kind of add to that. I think Dan does a great job of kind of breaking down credit, which is probably one of the most mysterious and misunderstood elements of people's personal finance. And when individuals maybe are turned down once or twice when trying to get a credit card or other types of credit, they get discouraged, and then they just simply say, hey, I have bad credit, I'm a bad credit person, I got to work with cash, or I got to go to a payday loan, and they don't address items that could put them in a position in the future to obviously have access to credit or pay a lot less in interest. So to take the mystery out of it, sit down and actually explain to people what comprises of credit, get them enough to be dangerous where they can look to see if there's errors, and then take some simple steps to get them back on the road to repairing their credit. And even, credit to Tradition Capital Bank, which is our partner in this as well. They've actually developed some credit builder credit programs where individuals that have had credit issues in the past can get access to a secured loan, build credit history reports on the credit report. But the goal is to just have people walk away from the meetings with just enough information to really be able to take action steps, to really take that first step forward of putting themselves in a better financial position.
How satisfying is it for both of you guys to, because I've been to both of the seminars, and when you're in there, you seem to get a lot of those aha moments from the people you're talking to, because even though, like I said, even though a lot of these concepts can be, a little bit heady, and you're like, well, how does this work and how does that work and why does it work? There are times when you guys will say something and then all of a sudden you'll get immediate feedback from everybody. How rewarding is that? Because you know that you're getting through, and you're actually able to explain it in a way that the regular people like myself and everyone else are able to understand. That's got to be pretty satisfying.
Yeah, it is really it is great, and we're in there. We're not pitching product, trying to get business. We're just trying to help people have, quite frankly, a better life. And there is to be able to share. I've been doing the lending gig for close to 30 years, so you pick up a lot of information and tips and things. To be able to share that with people, it's really neat. And I'm not that smart, so I talk in simple terms. So hopefully those that I'm teaching are smarter than me, so they probably pick it up really fast. But it is really rewarding, and I feel blessed and fortunate that I grew up in a situation and I had the education where I had opportunities that were kind of given to me right away that I maybe took for granted. So if I can, in a way, pay that forward to people that weren't necessarily in that same great situation that I was, if I can somehow help them out, to me, that's what it's all about.
And Dan, and for yourself, you said that you've sat down one-on-one with a lot of individuals that come to these seminars. Do you see the immediate reaction that they get when you can break it down and say, hey, you're not in as bad a spot as you think you're in. You just need to do these 3 steps maybe, and all of a sudden have them go, really? That's all it is?
Yeah, it's really enjoyable to sit with people and talk through it and talk through their personal circumstances and see what they've done, that they've taken some steps to improve where they're at, and talk about where they need to go next. One of the big things that I've realized over the years is there's a lot of the concepts that we're going through here, budgeting, saving, credit. They're not things that are really taught in our standard educational system. It's not part of middle school, high school education in general. Depending upon what you major in college, it may or may not be something that gets covered. So it's something that I think a lot of people enter adulthood, and depending upon the influences that they had as children outside of our standard educational system, they may or may not know this stuff, and it's impossible to expect people who haven't really been educated on these things, as really I wasn't, quite frankly, to expect people to be experts on this type of stuff. So it takes something like this for a lot of people who didn't have parents or grandparents to really teach them these foundations of financial success.
Erik, as I mentioned, one of the first seminar was on credit. The next one was on budgeting and paying off debt. And also the little bit of that was on how to save, really, going forward, and the power of compounding and time and everything like that. I guess how detailed do you want to get, and what are some of the series topics that you're going to go over for the next foreseeable future?
Yes, you're right. Our first topic was credit, because in this day and age, it's a fundamental element of how people have their personal finances. You're going to have some element of debt. You're going to have probably a car loan, a home mortgage. You're going to have some credit card debt or other installment loans. So knowing we thought that was the appropriate first topic, just to give people just that fundamental piece. And then, budgeting, which is, equally as important. It's one thing to make the money, but how do you keep it? I guess decision making. I would say that budgeting is understanding your money, but also learning how to make sound financial decisions with your money. So we talked about, how do you go about the process of making a significant purchase? What things should you think about? What times should you stop? And have a waiting period before you move forward with a large purchase? Just little things like that. Having an accountability buddy or partner to be able to run financial decisions by somebody that has the acumen and the trustworthiness, quite frankly, to be able to balance things off. So the next topic we're going to go over in a seminar is going to be home buying, which obviously fits right in our wheelhouse for what we do for a living too. And it's going to obviously, kind of builds on budgeting and credit, which is great. And I think what we'll do in subsequent seminars is circle back under those three tenets and just drill down deeper into specific items. So to really kind of take the next step with them. But we're excited for the home buying seminar, obviously, since that is really right in the wheelhouse of what we do.
Tell me a little bit about Deacon Andre Marshall, because he's very present when you're doing the seminars, and he's a co-presenter, I guess you would want to say, and he's a pretty dynamic guy. He has his community in mind, and he also has the awareness and knowledge of a lot of financial details. So tell me a little bit about him and how he figures in all this.
Andre is a great human being, and really, just to kind of back up, after a lot of the unrest last summer in Minneapolis, we because of our relationship, it was a Zion Baptist Church in North Minneapolis, had sat down with some of those community leaders and just said, how can we help try to, do good and kind of, take what's going on and find some ways to move forward in a positive way. And Andre, being a deacon of Zion Baptist Church, he really wanted to step forward, and also being from North Minneapolis, say, hey, how can we do some good in the community? And Andre is a very successful, long-time financial advisor as well, too. So he had those skill sets. So he said, hey, let's come together and present some information, because he's really just kind of seeking of knowledge, because if you don't have the information to make good decisions, it kind of creates a cycle of making those same poor choices over and over again. And it's not like people are not intelligent. They just have to have the opportunity and access to information. So he said, hey, can we take one step forward and put together some seminars that can give people an opportunity to learn about finance. Just like what Dan said, you may not be coming from a household or a family that has a lot of financial experience, and that's okay. And if maybe we can step in and be a little bit of that resource for people. So, Andre was obviously instrumental in helping put these seminars together initially, and he's a co-presenter with us and shares a tremendous amount of insight at every session.
And Dan, in the last seminar, the budgeting and paying off debt, I actually got a kick out of and actually a lot of information out of you using your own personal background and your path, I guess, through budgeting and saving and all this stuff, because I guess it put a kind of a humanizing sense to it, because you can always say, yeah, well, you're supposed to do this and you should do that, and your credit should be here, but when you can attach, like you said earlier, when you can attach real life situations to these things, people kind of can look at them and say, all right, well, I can do that. That makes sense to me, but it takes some discipline. So it was kind of cool to see you attach your own situation to it.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I was really excited about the last topic. Talking about budgeting and paying off debt, because I was able to bring in my experience over the last 4 or 5 years with my wife and I. And us kind of really getting our financial household in great shape. And it wasn't something that we were super educated on before, but it took us first off getting educated, making a decision to make some changes, and then it just took time to implement those changes, and it's worked out really, really well. So I was excited to share that with other people. And I think whenever you can look at somebody and you see somebody who's talking to you about something, if that person has done it and they've done it successfully, you can look at them and say, okay, well, if that person can do it, then I can do it too. Whereas if you just have somebody standing up in front of you talking about concepts and theories of things and do this and don't do that, if they can't talk from personal experience of it, it's a little bit harder to take them seriously. So I was super excited to talk about that last time.
Well, gentlemen, I know that there's, like I said, going forward, you're going to have other topics, and I'm actually excited about the next topic that you mentioned, Erik, because of not only is that, and I know you've talked about this a lot in the past. One of the bigger financial decisions anybody will make in their life is purchasing a home, but in this market, that's even there's going to be a wrinkle to it as well, on top of purchasing homes or saving to purchase a home and everything you need in that. But in this market, it's going to add another wrinkle to it. So how I guess real briefly, how are you going to approach the nuances that are beyond just what would be a regular year where you'd try and buy a home?
For sure, this market is incredibly competitive right now, and it's, people are having to act very quickly, and they're having to, quite frankly, pay more than they have in the past for houses. So doubly important that people go into it with their eyes wide open and they're in very strong financial shape, both on their balance sheet, but also education to understand what they're getting into. It's never something that should be entered into lightly. And overall, in this country, and certainly with the administration that is in the government right now, there definitely is a push towards what they call fair lending, or giving opportunities for people to buy houses, right? And we've tried it in the past where we just throw money out there at people, low down payment, no down payment, just get everybody in a house and it's just going to work itself out. Well, we know that didn't work, and it led to a lot of problems. So the key is get people into houses that are prepared and ready to be able to make those payments. And the more that we can get people ready and able to make those payments, the more people we can get into houses, and that's where it has to go in this order. So that's going to be what we talk about, is getting those fundamentals in place so people can have success with a house, and then they know. And it may be, or like right now in this market, it may be getting ready, but then waiting and taking a little more time before you pull the trigger, because hey, this is what I can afford. Here's my budget. I've done the math, and guess what? I'm not going to go above a certain level, and if I can't find any houses in the market that are at that level, then I'm okay waiting. And you have to have a little bit of that patience. So we're going to talk about that as well too, not getting caught up in the hype and going beyond where your research and your own math has shown you where you really need to be to ensure that you're not in a situation where you're feeling house poor, or you're running the risk of if you have a automobile repair or anything that comes up, all of a sudden now your finances are going to fall apart.
Well, gentlemen, I got to say that I love the fact that you're doing this, because, and I know you mentioned it, Dan, that you don't always learn these things. Like these are some of these real life things that you learn kind of on the spot, or as you move along, and sometimes through the school of hard knocks you learn them. You don't always learn them in class or in school or any other kind of education. So I'm really happy to that you guys are taking the time and doing these seminars. And I know that you'll have some more in the future, and we'll come back and we'll talk about this and how it's all gone. But so far, it appears like everything's going really well with these, and people are responding really well to them. So congratulations to both of you for being a part of that and for giving back to the community that way. And I thank you both for joining me here on Going Vertical podcast, brought to you by Tradition.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.